All right. Welcome, everyone. Cesar Mascoro Jr. with Manufacturing Home Salesman. And with our 15 minutes to master that we do each and every day to get you some information, inspiration, motivation so that you can go out and attack the day. And welcome to episode number 550. And I am out live in Tyler, Texas. But listen, I'm somewhere else right now. This morning, got the community out here, Las Lomas, where we're helping them get some things worked out with what they've got going on. But I wanted to reach out to you today and talk about a very, very important subject. I want to talk to you about a topic that is crucial to everyone in the sales industry, not just manufacturing home sales, but sales in general. Okay. And want to talk about why buyers put up objections. What leads to objections? What is it about a person that makes them put up objections, right? And I'm going to preface it really quickly by saying overcoming objections is not about the skill that you've got. All right. We're going to talk about more about that as we go along. But Robert Greene, who's an author, some very, very great books. Okay. There's a great book by the name of 48 Laws of Power that he's got, man. Tremendous read right there. But Robert Greene writes, the need for certainty is the greatest disease the mind faces. That's pretty strong stuff, man. The need for certainty is the greatest disease the mind faces. This just when you stop to think about it. Certainty, the need for certainty. Everybody wants to be certain about it. I need to be sure about this, right? They want to start a business. Is it going to be successful? That everybody wants to fail proof everything. But just like you said, it's the biggest disease that the mind faces because now you start to talk yourself out of things. So we're going to get into that. But look, there's this little clip that I found on Instagram about him, from him, and I want to share this video with you guys. Check it out. Let me do this. There we go. Here it is. And I am going to play right over here. Give me 1 second, guys.
Disease. And it's because the world itself is mysterious, it's complicated. Just dealing with people. A person is like another world, is like an alien. They have their own thoughts. You're never going to understand their emotions completely. They're a total mystery to you. And you can't get through life without understanding people. What you do naturally is you simplify everything because you don't like the feeling of not understanding people or events in the world. You're full of anxiety and you want to kind of reduce things to pat little formulas that make it so you say, I'm certain about this idea. I know what's going to happen tomorrow. I know what my wife or my spouse or my children are thinking. And so it's like a defense mechanism, and it's preventing you from seeing the true reality, the mystery, the complex nature of the phenomenon around you. And it's a deadly, deadly, deadly factor in any kind of creative venture, because the creative spirit, this is what John Keats called negative capability, is to be able to postpone that need for certainty and say, I can entertain two ideas that might be contradicting each other at the same time, but I'm okay with it. I don't need the answer. My mind is open and I'm exploring ideas, and maybe I'll settle upon an answer eventually. But for the moment, I'm open to the mystery, and that's the source of creativity. So having this certainty is a mental disease that blocks you from any kind of creative thinking.
All right. So let's unpack that real quick. He talks, first of all, I got to tell you, I'm never going to know what my wife and kids are thinking. I will admit that. However, we were going to talk about the need for certainty from our customers, and we're going to get to that. But the problem starts with us on the sales side. You, the consultant, you, the community manager, you feeling that you need to be certain about what they are thinking, what they are feeling, or why doesn't this make sense? Or you're thinking when he says about how we try to simplify things, right? And so you're thinking that to overcome an objection, I have to say this one thing, or I have to say it this way. And don't get me wrong, we have our full house training cards, right? 50 of the most common objections in manufactured home sales because they come up. However, the reason why that verbiage that's on those cards is so effective is because I designed those and put those together over years of trial and error because it was about understanding how people think. We have to understand human nature. Why do people put up objections? Well, just like the topic says, they want to be certain and they're not certain. They're never going to be certain. You know why they're never going to be certain? Because buying a home is not their job. Buying a home is not their career. Buying a home is a basic human necessity, right? Or having a home, I should say, is a basic human necessity. But purchasing a home is not a human need. It's a desire. It's not a need. And when you understand that, now you've got to understand if as humans, when we don't need something, right? My child is in danger, I will put my life on the line. And I'm sure all of you would do the same thing for your children. You see that your child is in danger, you will put your life on the line because that is a need of yours, of mine. Giving my child a toy is not. He doesn't need that, nor do I. And so if I don't have to, or if it's the cost of it, my kid does not need the latest Xbox that's going to put me out $600, $700, whatever it is. Your customers are the same way. Your buyers are the same way. Purchasing a home is not a need, it's a desire. So when you understand that, now they have even more of a necessity for you to make it very, very clear why they should make that decision. And we never stop to really prepare ourselves for that. We never have really stopped to think of, shoot, everybody, the American dream, right? We're all sold on the American dream. Everybody wants to own a home. Not everybody needs to own a home. And when we don't need it, when you're trying to present somebody with an option for something they don't need to survive, they don't need to buy, they need a home, but they don't need to buy a home. And so when it's not a true need, there will always be that uncertainty for the buyer. And so that's why I tell you the certainty has to start with me, with you. You have to be more than certain that that home that you are presenting them, or the couple of options that you're presenting them, you have to be certain that that fits their needs in a home and their wants for a home. And you've got to make sure that it fits their needs in the budget and their wants for everything else they want to do in life. You see, most of you don't stop to think of just how critical what you do is, why it's so important to slow down and ask the deeper questions. You think that this process that we come to you with, that we share with you, is like, man, why do I have to do all that stuff? Because you're not thinking through this whole thing. You're not understanding human nature. You're not even stopping to think about how you make decisions. That's where all our programs are centered around, is how people make decisions. And so just like Robert Greene said there, we, in our need for certainty, I need to be certain that they're going to buy. We try and make it very, very simple. Like, oh my gosh, okay, so you need to go talk to your spouse. Okay, if they're going to say they've got to talk to your spouse, I got to say this. And you think that it's about a little technique. It's not about a technique. It's about what you should have done ahead of time. I keep going back to that. I keep going back to that because I'm telling you 1,000 times, and I will say it till I'm headed to the grave, man. It's what you do up front that makes the most difference in whether or not, or the most impact, or has the most effect on whether or not your potential buyer is going to make the decision they already want to make. You see, too many of us think that we got to sell the customer. I've got to sell them. Man, they are already sold. They are already sold on the idea of buying a home, because if they weren't sold on the idea of buying a home, They would not be there. They would not be calling you. They would not be responding to your ads if they weren't already sold on buying a house. You're not selling them. If a buyer shows up right now to my location, okay, if a buyer shows up to my location, I don't have to sell them on anything. I need to meet their human needs, the human nature component of this, of the way they think, the way we process things, to make it make sense. To give them that certainty that getting out of that rental, that getting out of the family's house, that maybe downsizing from the home they own now, and going with what I have to offer, in this case, what you have to offer, is the thing to do. But we get so wrapped up in everything else because, and it's not your fault, okay? I'm here to tell you, to a certain extent, it's not your fault, okay? And what I mean by that is this: most companies, unfortunately, right, especially within the manufactured home industry, don't have a full-fledged training system in place. And when they do, it is simply techniques. It is simply skills. It is simply learn this word track. But there's no reason behind it. And when you don't understand the reason behind it, it doesn't make sense. Well, I was just told this is what I got to do. I'm a robot, right? I'm a robot. And I was told this is what I have to say. But you have to understand why. But even before that, even that's not going to make sense, because you have to understand how people are thinking, especially in today's market, especially in today's economy, and with the uncertainty that they have going on. You have to understand how they think. Okay, so I'm going to recap this for you again from the top real quick, and then we're going to go into the top 5 ways that you can provide certainty. You don't have to sell anybody. They are already sold on the idea of buying a house. Nobody needs to buy a house. Let's get that straight. There's plenty of places that they can go live, they can go rent, they can rent apartments, townhomes, condos, they can rent anything, they can rent manufactured homes. There's plenty of housing available. So nobody needs to buy a home. They want to buy a home. And they are sold on the idea of buying a home, because if they were not sold already, they would not be responding to your ads. They would not be calling your location. They would not be calling your cell phone. They would not be showing up if they weren't already sold on the idea. Understand that. They are sold already. What they are not, is certain about making that decision. They want to make the decision. Remember, they already want to make the decision, because if they did not want to, they would not be there. If they did not want to, they would not contact you. They want to make the decision. They are just not sure if that's the decision to make. And so now it's on you understanding how they think now, understanding that buyer showed up. Okay, great. They want to buy a house. I know they want to, because they wouldn't be here. They want it. But they have doubts. They have uncertainty. I need to be certain enough for them. And the only way that I'm going to be certain enough for them is by slowing down and actually finding out their situation, actually finding out why they want to move, actually finding out what they are currently living in, actually finding out what else they have looked at, actually finding out what's important for them in the home, actually finding out what they need as far as a financial budget. I need to have that information so that then I can process that, and with what I present them, provide them the certainty that they need to make the decision they wanted to make. But too many of us skip all of these steps thinking it's not important. Thinking it's not important because we're not understanding that what they need is certainty. Whether it's Robert Greene talking about how humans need certainty, right? And how it's the biggest disease that the mind faces, or whether it's Tony Robbins telling you that So the five basic human needs or six basic human needs, one of them is certainty, but we also have the need for uncertainty. We need that spice of life, right? So with that being said, look, you're not going to provide certainty by not slowing down up front, by not figuring everything out, by not being a true consultant. The other place you're missing at is you're not addressing everything that they have doubts on. You know what every buyer has doubts about. And maybe they don't have those doubts. Maybe this one buyer doesn't have those doubts, but you're still not talking about them, and it creates doubt. We should be the source of information for them in order to make sure that we have alleviated all concerns, all doubts that we know we have run across through customers. And look, there's not millions of them. There's a few, maybe a couple handful. But the top, you can count in one hand. And you should be addressing those every single time before you go out and look at homes. I'll sell them in the house, or they're going to get sold in the house. No, you're not going to, especially not in this market, especially not in this economy. When you can do that, man, it's going to be a total game changer. So what are the best ways we can do it? First and foremost, here we go. You must have certainty and belief on your end. Certainty, belief on your end. You've got to have that. You have to be certain that what you have and what you're presenting to them is not only what they want, but it's what they need. It's what's going to solve their problem, and it's within their budget. And that's why you have to take the time up front to make sure that what you're presenting them, you are certain is the solution. The next thing you have to understand is you have to be there to help, not to sell. They're already sold. Be there to help. That's a different approach. That's a different way of speaking. That's a total different connection, a different vibe. It's professionalism. It's consultative. It's customer centric. It's empathetic. And it's intentional. Nobody, I mean, like, man, there's all kinds of people. I was talking to a gentleman yesterday, Joe, I think you're on this call. We were talking about it yesterday. Man, do you want to keep selling the manufactured home buyer, or are you trying to raise your game and you trying to go after the site built buyer that can no longer buy site built homes, but I got to do my job better, be better, so that I can help that person make the decision to purchase a manufactured home instead of renting a site built home, right? So understand we're there to help, not to sell. The next thing, you have to listen to understand. Don't listen to respond. There's too many. There's people we know out there that will listen to respond. Too many of listening to see what it is that you do or say to respond to people. Man, it's not about you being the smartest guy or the smartest gal in the room. It's about you listening to understand so that you can solve the problem, right? Now, the next thing we want to do is answer the common doubts that every buyer has, even when they don't ask you, even when they don't bring it up, right? Construction, warranties. Is the house going to blow away? What about the financing? How does it work in this case? Why are payments so high today? What's good if you're in a community? Well, what about leasing the land? All of those things, you need to make sure that you are understanding exactly, or that they are understanding all these things, even if they don't ask you about these things. And lastly, now you solve the problem. Remember, they're already sold. They're sold on the idea of buying. Solve the problem. Present it in a manner that makes sense to them. Give them the certainty, and you will reduce the objections. You will eliminate objections. The better you get at this, the more you understand how people think, the more you slow down, the better you prepare yourself, the more you level up, like Joe just said. Leveling up means I need to get better. You need to get better. None of us are at, and I don't care who you are, none of us. We can all continue to improve. And the more you continue to evolve this way, the more you continue to improve, the better you get, the more confident you get, the easier you speak to people, the more influential you are, the more impactful you are, the more dedicated that you are. And all of that will lead to higher levels of success. So I hope that this helps you understand why buyers put up objections. It's human nature. It's the need for certainty. But it starts with you. We are here to help you with that. That's everything that we do. Our programs, all of our programs, our online training, everything that we do centers around what goes on up here, both with you and the buyer. And that's what makes our program so effective. As long as you put them into effect, as long as you start operating in that manner, you will see a huge transformation in the way you operate and the success level of your business, whether as a sales consultant or a whole team. That's what we're here for, Manufactured Home Sales Mastery, because we're here to take your life, your business, and your career to a whole new level. And that's why we continue to level up. We continue to improve. We continue to add to what we do, because we know that there is so much more out there. And that's why we continue to partner with great companies, both as a business, but also with great organizations to help make you better.
For far too long, the manufactured home industry has been underestimated, and that changes now. MHEI and Manufactured Home Sales Mastery are proud to come together and bring you the MHEI Academy. It's the professional housing consultant certification program that is unlike anything you've ever seen before. When I first launched Manufactured Home Sales Mastery, our mission was to revolutionize the sales force within the industry, and this is just another step in that direction. For the last 2 years, we've worked with over 400 sales consultants and community managers all across the country to help them level up in their effectiveness, efficiency, and professionalism. And now we're bringing you a foundational training course that is going to help take your sales teams to a whole new level. That is the MHEI Academy. This is the moment that the industry levels up. We're not training salespeople, we're building professionals. We've helped hundreds sharpen their skills, and now it's your turn. We've proven the results that can happen when you work with purpose. You've got two choices of what you can do: evolve or get left behind. This is the foundation, the launch pad, the starting point. So go get signed up right now and take advantage of the MHEI Academy's Professional Housing Consultants Certification Program. It's the starting line that's going to help take your teams to a whole new level.
There you go. Get down that website down below. If you haven't had a training course, if your company hasn't provided you training, if you just want to take a step in a different direction and take control of your career, go to training.manufacturedhousing.org/special and get that foundational course. It's not a full-blown course. It's to give you that foundation so that you can start to operate differently, think differently, and understand what you need to do in order to be effective in this career. And then hopefully from there, you'll partner up with us on a deeper and bigger level. You guys have a great Thursday, man. Get on out there and do some great things. You know, we're always here for you. Be back in tomorrow with another 15 minutes to mastery. And until then, my friends, as always, I can't wait to meet you.